Imagine trying to keep this kind of story off the internet. Imagine doing everything that you can to hide behind mentorship, business coaching, and financial freedom type language, only for someone to come forward and walk the world through what actually happens on the inside. Because today, we are talking about Amway. We're going to be naming Amway. We're not going to hide. We are saying it loud and proud as we expose what really happens within Amway and LTD. We're not going to soften any part of this. And there is a woman that put this story out on TikTok. Her name is Stephanie. Stephanie's story is one that I'm sure Amway hopes that people scroll past. We're not doing that here. Oh, no. Let's get into it. Hey everybody, welcome to my channel. My name is Erin Bies, and if you're new here, I spent 13 and a half years in multi-level marketing, and one of my biggest wake-up calls was the year that I earned over $77,000 on paper, but after buying products, paying for coaching, and going to events, I only netted about $10,000. That was one of the moments. I was going to say that was the moment, but that was one of the moments that I realized that the problem wasn't me, the problem was the model. And this happens to people every single day, which is why stories like Stephanie's matter so much. It's incredibly rare to hear honest, detailed accounts from people who are deep inside Amway and LTD, because in my opinion, those environments are extremely controlled and very good at shutting down criticism before it even sees the light of day until today. So when someone speaks out, regardless of all of that, that takes real bravery. And my hope is that Stephanie's voice and Stephanie's story will help so many people get out. My channel is always going to be a place of no shame and no judgment, just honest conversations, healing, perspective, and support for anyone who has ever been impacted by MLM culture. My hope is that hearing stories like this helps more people recognize what's really happening behind the scenes, and for people to know that they're not alone if they choose to walk away. We have a lot of video to cover, so buckle up. I hope you have your favorite snack and your favorite drink, and let's get into clip one.
The way that this whole process is set up is it makes you feel like you are working your ass off to try to qualify to earn mentorship from a couple that has retired young. Retired young, financially independent, don't have debt, don't have jobs, can do whatever they want. The psychology behind it is like people want what they can't have, and so there is a 7-step interview process that is very strict, and you are trying to put your best foot forward and not mess this up, because this is your one shot to get mentorship from someone who has the life that you want, supposedly. Throughout this process, you'll be asked to read a book, listen to podcasts, come out and meet the team. You actually do get to meet usually the couple that you are trying to qualify to earn time from, so that they can teach you all of their ways and you can also be financially independent young. If you mess something up, like if you're late to a meeting or you don't finish one of the homework assignments that they gave to you, then they're really quick to threaten to kick you out of the interview process. But it's just the reverse psychology. They know that that's just going to make you want it even more and show that like, oh shit, these people are serious. And it really depends on who you are connected with, what the interview process is going to look like, or if they even have an interview process. But this is just from my experience, what we did.
I feel like this is classic pressure-based recruiting that we see in multi-level marketing, making everything sound like it's so exclusive, making you feel lucky just to be invited, and making you fear messing up because you only get one shot. This is not mentorship. This is compliance testing. They want to see how far they can push your boundaries before you push back. They are looking for people that are going to do what they want you to do. This is the test for that. Okay, let's get into clip two.
I actually really agree with this comment. So here's how it happened for us. First of all, I was 21. I had never heard of Amway. I had never heard of an MLM. I had no idea what the concept even was. I've never even heard of a cult before. I was oblivious and naive. And the brainwashing starts from the very beginning, from the very first conversation that you have with the person that's trying to bring you in. They know that you're going to come across negative family members or friends or the internet from the beginning. So they will say things like, are you a free thinker? Because we only work with free thinkers. And that's the thing, like they framed it like they were the CEO of an amazing corporation and they were interviewing you and made you like want to play your cards right to be able to get selected and invited into this team when it's all just a facade. But yeah, are you a free thinker? Because we only work with free thinkers, so we need to make sure that you can think on your own and not be swayed by everybody else's opinions around you. So from the very beginning, you're already thinking, you're already prepped, like people are gonna say bad things, but I need to observe the masses and do the opposite if I want to be successful.
That free thinker line is such a setup. They frame it like it's empowerment, but it really means ignore everyone who warns you about Amway and only listen to us as the people that are her upline or potential upline. It flips the meaning of free thinking into obedience. That's not empowerment. That is conditioning and control. Wow. Let's look at clip 3.
I are putting all of our money, every penny, into an MLM that ended up being a cult. We've been out of that business for a year now. Now we want to buy a house, but our credit isn't there. One of the rules within that environment was that you are supposed to rent. The reason they do that is so that people have more money to put into the business, but it is looked down upon if you buy before you hit a certain level within the pay structure. Same goes with like having kids. Like it's kind of an unspoken rule that you have to wait until you hit this certain level before you start having kids. But we just feel so behind in life, honestly, because we are in our early 30s and still haven't bought a house. It sucks.
I feel like this is where MLMs start impacting real life. Not buying a house, waiting to have kids because your upline doesn't approve of you having kids. I have never heard that in a multi-level marketing company. Putting every dollar into the business, yeah, that happens in MLM. But when a business opportunity, I'm going to use air quotes again, starts dictating major milestones, major life milestones, that's a sign the group has crossed into your personal life, and people end up years behind financially because of it. I have never seen a multi-level marketing company dictate whether somebody should get married, buy a house, or have children. I have never seen, have y'all seen that? This is a first for me. All right, clip 4. Let's talk about it.
I don't think every MLM is a cult, and I don't think Amway is a cult. The cult part is the groups of people that are all doing Amway that get together and build an education system. Amway has like 5 main ones. The one that I was a part of called LTD. And within LTD, there is smaller groups of people. So LTD has like 20,000 people. Within that, the smaller groups are really what determines whether you're in a cult or not, because it depends on how controlling those people are that you're connected to. And it might be a cult for some people and not for other people. Let me explain. When you're new, we're love bombing you. So we're not trying to control you whatsoever, because we know that you're going to quit if we do that. The control comes after you've been in for years and years and years, and you're like brainwashed enough to be able to be controlled. Also, like the higher up that you went in the pay structure, the more culty it becomes, because they have more leverage to be able to control you, because you're like a star in that environment and you have more to lose.
I'm conflicted on this part because I do personally believe that all MLMs use commercial cult tactics to recruit and to get people to make purchases that they can't afford. I can appreciate and understand where she's coming from, where she's saying Amway is one thing, but the tool systems like LTD are where the real control shows up. I think that her experience is extremely important. I appreciate the fact that she's talking about love bombing happening at the beginning, the total approval, instant community, and then slowly the pressure and control creep in. That definitely is something that is seen in and across multi-level marketing, in my opinion. They don't show you the rules up front. They wait until you're emotionally invested, and then it's almost like this bait and switch. It's wild.
Someone asked how much money we think we spent in Amway in 9 years. My husband, he calculated we spent about $30,000 a year for 9 years. I don't think that even includes babysitters, which was like one of our biggest expenses. So more than whatever 30,000 times 9 is.
$30,000 a year for 9 years. And she was considered successful. That's the part people outside MLMs probably will never see. Even top performers lose money. Even the people on stage, even the people used as examples. Amway is not a business that you build. It's a system that drains you slowly. Your time, your energy, your money. And I'm so glad that she has shared all of this. It's so important.
Somebody asked, like, how were we making money when we were in that? Okay, the answer is we never quit our day jobs. So we're still bringing in income from our day jobs and then putting it into buying products in order to hit a certain quota that you had to meet monthly. On top of that, for the education system, you were paying $200, $250 a month for access to an app that's basically like an email system where you can message your mentors, and then a podcast platform, kind of like Spotify, but for that system specifically to be able to listen to people that were successful. So you basically are losing money all throughout while you're building your business, getting other people in, getting them to do the same thing. And once you reach certain levels, you start making money. The problem is when you start making that money, you're taking that, pouring it right back in. So you're paying for conference tickets 5 times a year. You're paying for transportation to go to the conferences that were states and states away. You're paying for the hotel to stay at all weekend. You're paying for babysitters for the weekend, for conferences, but also for weekly meetings every single week. You're paying to get into those weekly meetings. So even though you're making $2,000 a month, you're putting it right back in for all those things. Not to mention driving to go meet with people to try to get them in your business. And Zoom calls were very much discouraged, at least in our organization. We were very much encouraged to drive, because that shows that you're willing to do it for them. It's love bombing. But it was kind of like looked down upon if you did a Zoom meeting versus drive, 14 hours to go meet with somebody. So even though we were stars in that environment, we had hit the top of the bonus scale. It's all facade because you're not really making money until you help 3 other people reach the top of the bonus scale. Then you will make money, but it's not from Amway and products. I mean, you'll make a little bit from there, but it's from the education system, because that's the true pyramid scheme. Everybody puts money into this education system, and then the top people divide it up amongst themselves. And every single conference, the top people would get paid for every single person, every single ticket that was sold, and they would all divide it amongst themselves. And it's not like that was a secret. Like, we all knew, but we would justify it like, oh, those are the leaders. They're the ones pouring into the conference. They're the ones speaking. They're the ones mentoring people. They're the ones that deserve it.
Whoa. Oh my God, that is so much to process. And I'm sure Amway is not happy that she posted this. These companies, in my opinion, are typically they're not happy when people speak out specifically about the money not being in products, and that it's the systems, the coaching, the events, the monthly subscriptions, and history, in my opinion, backs this up. Amway allegedly has been sued over this exact issue before. The leaders make money because everyone under them keeps buying belief, not because customers are buying products. $250 a month for an app to be able to email your upline, plus paying for the events, and then the leaders split that money for the people that bought tickets for the events. I have never heard of an MLM doing that. We know that MLM companies typically charge for their events, but I have never heard of leaders doing that. Maybe in a smaller event, and maybe that's what she's referring to, but wow.
People are like, how does one fall for a cult? Like, how does a grown adult get sucked into that? Watch some cult documentaries. There's a lot of good ones. I will list them here maybe. But it was so healing to watch one of those, actually, because I was like, oh my gosh, that's exactly what happened to us. Nobody joins a cult. Nobody's like, oh, I want to sign up for a cult. People join a good thing, a movement, something that they can be a part of and feel like they're making a difference. And all I can say is very, very slow brainwashing, like to where you don't know it's happening. It's very small tweaks over time.
I feel like this is something that I recognize from my own experience in multi-level marketing. Anytime you feel doubt, they teach you to drown it out with more audios, more calls, more mindset training. It keeps people busy, it keeps you plugged in, and it stops you from slowing down long enough to question whether this is actually working, whether you're actually making any progress, whether you're actually making any money. It's all a smokescreen designed to control what you are doing, what you are consuming as far as content, and who you are listening to.
You can try to see if your cousin is willing to watch any cult documentaries. But for 9 years, I was told I was in a cult. I was told I was in a scam. It did not matter what people said, because I fully believed with my whole entire heart, like I was so convinced that what I was doing was the right thing. I was so brainwashed that you couldn't tell me nothing. I would not let myself to even start thinking like that. In that environment, it's preached that the size of your business is going to be equivalent to your belief level. So like how much you believe that this is going to work for you is going to equal your results. Meaning you don't allow any negative that's going to hurt your belief. You need to protect your belief. It's sacred. So you don't let any negative into your space. You cut them off. Have a negative family member, I don't talk to them that much because they're hurting my belief. So watching a cult documentary is just going to hurt your belief about what you're doing, which is going to hurt your business. You just don't even let yourself think like that. You don't let yourself watch stuff like that. I have no doubt that the people that are still in, if they let themselves watch something like that, they might get some red flags, because you cannot deny the similarities once you watch something like that. They just won't even let themselves go there. And if you ever start having some doubts, then you're taught to plug in a podcast and listen to some success stories from people that have made this work. So you're like continuously brainwashing yourself.
I feel like this kind of internal conflict keeps people stuck in MLMs because they sprinkle just enough positivity, just enough personal development or growth and community that you start to almost gaslight yourself. You know, you start thinking things like, well, maybe I'm the problem. Maybe I'm being negative, because that's what you're taught in these high control groups, these commercial cults, which I do believe MLMs are commercial cults. You start thinking maybe I'm selfish for having doubts. And that confusion is extremely powerful, unfortunately. And these people in these uplines, these MLM companies, they absolutely rely on that.
What was the hardest part about it all? Because it was really a self-development program, meaning you literally read books that helped you be better at people skills or be able to open up. It's kind of like therapy. Like, it really does help you grow as a person. So you see the results of people when they first get started to how they are a year later, and you're like, wow, they've grown so much. It's just success principles. They're universal. They're the same everywhere. So like you see all this good and you're like, I'm doing a good thing. Like, I have all these thoughts about this thing, but like right in front of me, I see the results of someone's life that literally got better. So when you're having negative thoughts, you're again, like, there's enough good in there that you're like conflicted.
I think this is something that we hear a lot of times from people that are trying to recruit other people into multi-level marketing is, you know, it's a personal development plan or that is attached to a compensation plan. You can grow personally without being a part of a multi-level marketing company. And the fact that they link these two, I think, is extremely manipulative. You can become a better person. You can grow in different areas, absolutely, without being part of a multi-level marketing company. I don't agree. And this is part of, I believe, this is part of Stephanie's journey. I don't think that these personal development protocols, if I even want to call it that, from these multi-level marketing companies are similar to therapy. I don't think they have anything to do with therapy. I think they're two different things. We stand therapy always on this channel. And I think that that's part of, in my opinion, her deprogramming. Because when you step back and you look at what these companies are doing, and how they are trying to take personal development and they're wrapping recruiting and financial traps in the mix of all of this, I think that you'll look at personal development a little bit different. It'll take you some time. If you're anything like me, and everybody is different, but for me, it was like I was so invested in personal development from being in an MLM that it took me a while to kind of recover from that and be able to separate the two. Personal development exists on its own, but when it's intertwined with an MLM, it can be very confusing to unwind all of it.
There were 6 main rules that we had to follow when we were in Amway. And they never framed it like, these are rules. These are the standards. This is what makes our team stand out, because we have such high standards. Somehow that tricked our minds into thinking like, oh, this is cool. Okay, so first one is no negative crossline or downline. What that means is basically I have a mentor, they have me under them, but they also have other people under them that are not under me. So we're kind of like cousins. With those people, you could hang out with them at events that your mentor has put on, like conferences, meetings, or like if they invited everybody over to their house, but you're not allowed to like get each other's numbers and go hang out outside of those environments. And you're not allowed to share negative things with them. So like negative thoughts, if you think something crappy about the meeting, like you're not allowed to share those things with them. And the reason for that is because if you get too friendly with your cross line and you start talking about stuff, like you might figure out that we're in a freaking weird environment. or with people that are under you because they need to see you like a duck on water. You're also not supposed to say like, hey, how are you? Because if they're not good, that puts them in an awkward position because you're not allowed to say I'm not good. So you're supposed to say, hey, it's good to see you. So these like friendships you think you have, they're all fake. They're all like one-sided because you're not true friends. You can't share stuff with them. Also, if you're married, your husband is considered your upline, which means he can't share negative with you as a wife. So if he had like a crappy day at work, he was not allowed to complain about it to me. If he wanted to, he can complain about it to our mentor, which were the only people that were allowed to hear all the negative crap that you were thinking or going through. And if you quit, nobody's like allowed to, well, not allowed to, nobody's really supposed to keep in contact with you. Unless you're that person's mentor, then you keep it friendly. But that's just in hopes of like, maybe they'll become a customer or maybe they can babysit.
Wow. No negativity, no real relationships, no honest conversations. Even spouses are told to avoid being vulnerable with each other. I have never heard of this happening in another MLM company. This is not a business. And I'm saying that in more than one way. We know that MLMs they're not their own business owners as the distributors in the company. But what I mean, or let me elaborate, I guess I should say, is that this is control. This is removing any kind of pushback or friction, and it is ultimate control. When you can't speak freely, you're so much easier to manipulate, in my opinion. And when friendships come with rules, they're not real friendships. I am so glad that Stephanie has put out these videos. This is such an important conversation to be having.
Number 2 that we had to follow when we were in Amway. You have to check with your mentor before you do anything for the first time. What does that mean? So like if you and your spouse wanted to like move or have a baby or something, you had to basically ask permission before you did that. I know people are like, why would you fall for that? I don't understand. Because it's not framed like that. It's not framed like, check with me before you do anything because I need to give you permission or not, even though essentially, bottom line, that's what it was. It's framed like this. These are not rules. These are just guidelines to help you grow a really big profitable business. So if you want a big profitable business, you have to follow these things. And if you're going to move or have a baby, that's going to severely impact growing your business because of the time, money, energy it's going to take from the business to be able to put into those things. Therefore, if you come check with me first, I have seen a lot of people do this because I've been doing this longer. So I can really give you a good perspective as far as how to do things if you want a big business. So like you should probably wait to buy a house. Don't do that right now. Don't have kids right now because that's just going to take your mental focus and financially away from doing this. And this is going to be what's going to provide for your family in the future. So just focus right now. I just spit everywhere.
Just spit everywhere. It happens. The second a group starts telling you to check with your mentor before making basic life decisions, you should probably run. But I also can understand how it's not framed that way, and they are very sneaky in how they present it. We know that about multi-level marketing companies. They dress it up as wisdom or guidance, just like Stephanie just mentioned, but it's really about permission. They want your life to revolve around the business. And that's not mentorship. Again, that is ultimate control. Did I just spill water on myself? Yes, but we're going to keep it going. Let's hear what else she has to say.
How did we get stuck in Amway for 9 years? Part 1. There's the self-development side of it. So reading books to improve yourself. Become more confident, better at relationships, better at raising your kids, better at communication. It improves your relationships all around. It is truly like therapy. You hear stories of marriages that were on the brink of divorce and then they got around the team and they were able to fix their marriage. You have personal stories of somebody that you brought into this environment, and because of that, they stopped being an alcoholic, they stopped driving drunk, and their coworker who was in that same scene as them, who did not join, is still doing that, and they passed because they were driving home drunk one night. And that person was at the meeting with us. And he's like, if I hadn't been here, that would have been me with him. You hear stories of people that are about to themselves because they were so depressed and then they got around their team and all those thoughts went away. You have personal stories. My mom and I's relationship sucked. And once I started to be able to understand her because I started to read more, it got better. So there's enough good in there to make it all muggy. Because when you start to have doubts, you literally gaslight yourself. You're like, oh my God, I'm so freaking selfish. Why am I so selfish that I want to leave when I'm helping people here? I battled with thoughts of leaving for a whole year before I ever brought it up to my husband, because I literally thought I was so selfish that I wanted to quit.
Oh man, that's a lot. I feel like one of the trickiest parts of MLMs is that they mix real growth tools with manipulative messaging. People genuinely feel better in some ways, so they ignore the parts that feel off. They blame themselves instead of questioning the system, and it really does keep people stuck in this very system for many, many years, unfortunately.
Of why we were stuck in Amway for 9 years. The spiritual side, the spiritual manipulation. Okay, so you're seeing all this good stuff around you. You're hanging out with these people. You're starting to switch some things in your lifestyle, like stop drinking, because, you know, the people that you're around now don't do that. So you kind of stop doing that. You're making like healthy choices and it looks good. You start to really trust these people because you're with them all the time. You go to a conference, they have an optional worship service that's not really optional. You give your life to Jesus. And now you're a baby Christian. You don't know anything. Everything that you do know, they're teaching you. And everything you read in the Bible is filtered through the lens of the business. And don't get me started, if you're already a Christian, hopefully you see the spiritual manipulation and things that are off. But if you miss that, all you see is, ooh, people are getting saved at conferences. I'm all in for this. This is how I'm going to help people into the kingdom. Our literal thought process was, this is the vehicle, the silly little Amway thing is the vehicle that God has given us to be able to get people into heaven. And we had proof of that because we brought people in that were not believers and they got saved at a conference. And so that's how you get stuck. If you genuinely believe that this is what God has called you to do and you are in his perfect will, then you don't care that people think that you're in a cult. You don't care that people are saying you're losing money, because it's not about money. I'm saving lives. And the people on the outside have like no clue, right? So you feel like this connection with people on the inside because they get it. The spiritual manipulation is when you have thoughts of leaving, you literally are convinced that that's just Satan's voice in your head. Because Satan does not like what you're doing and he's trying to get you out. So once I spoke up about my feelings, literally my mentors and my husband thought that I was under demonic attack.
Whoa, that is a lot. I feel like spiritual manipulation is one of the most powerful forms of control. We see it all the time in MLMs. I feel like when you attach God or spiritual beliefs to a business transaction, you're creating a system where leaving feels like a sin. You can't question the upline without feeling like you're questioning your own faith, your own beliefs. And that's not spiritual growth. That, in my opinion, is like spiritual hijacking.
My husband and I spent $30,000 a year at least for 9 years while we were in an MLM that ended up being a cult. It doesn't start super controlling. It becomes that way over time. And over time, those become your only friends. You've gotten married in it and had kids in it. All your kids are best friends. So over time, you look back and you're like, shh. And it's really hard to leave because that's all you know. I go to the same gym as my old mentors and there's definitely awkwardness. They are genuine good people and they genuinely think that they're doing a good thing. They think that they're helping people. They think that they're doing the Lord's work. And because they think that they're doing the Lord's work, when somebody like me gets out and starts speaking out publicly about the corruption of it all, that makes me the enemy and makes them think that I'm under Satan's attack. I am Satan's vessel. So it's fun walking around knowing that you just think I'm working for the devil.
Oh my God. I feel like when doubt becomes the devil, questioning becomes dangerous. That is how people stay trapped. If thinking for yourself in these scenarios is framed as sin, you stop thinking for yourself. And that is exactly what groups like this depend on, in my opinion.
Relationships are the glue. That's what we would always hear. Come to find out, that's true. The two main reasons people get stuck in Amway and why we stayed for 9 years and why we still have friends that are stuck in that think that we are under Satan's attack. The spiritual side and friendships. Let's talk about friendships. When we left, we knew if we go through with this, you know we're not going to have any friends, right? Like, we have no friends because those were our only friends for 9 years. Even the people that have been in 1, 2, 3 years, like those are their only friends. You kind of cut everyone else off because they're not doing what you're doing. So there's like this fear of the outside. Also, if you all have kids, all your kids are best friends. So there's a lot of reasons why leaving just isn't even an option after you've been in for a while. When we were thinking about leaving, I genuinely, this was my thought. But what are we going to do on Easter? And that sounds so dumb now, but like at the time you're leaving, it's so scary. You don't know if you're making the right decision because you're still mentally f***ed up. You're getting told that the enemy's just got his, claws on your back and he's just snatching you out. And part of you is like, that might be true at the time because you're still brainwashed. So the friendships, the tight-knit community, the fact that you can just all put money down and rent a giant Airbnb and just go spend the weekend, like the community side, it really was the glue. That's why people stay in. They're literally paying to be a part of a social club.
I absolutely agree with her there. I think this is exactly why people seem happy in multi-level marketings, because they have community, just like what she described. They have structure, they have people cheering for them, or what feels like they're cheering for them in that moment, and leaving feels like losing your entire support system. It's scary. It's not stupidity, it's survival. And that's why, in my opinion, Stephanie's honesty is so powerful that she is sharing this. I'm so glad that she shared this.
Their family members, important events, and it's a badge of honor. One lady missed her grandmother's funeral, and it was used over and over and over again as to why you should also miss whatever event you have going on for a conference. One couple missed their kid's college graduation. A friend of mine who is still in just missed her daughter's gymnastic competition at state. Our extended family does a family reunion once a year at the beach that we did not go to for a few years. I missed being my sister's bridesmaid. I said no, just in case I wasn't going to be able to go to the wedding, because what if there was a conference on that weekend? I can't commit to anything. And I know that to that, people in would say, oh, she's being a victim. She's not taking personal responsibility for her choices. Because that's how they gaslight you. They stand on a stage in a public setting and say, if you miss the conference, you're a loser. You don't really care about your financial freedom. You're not qualified to be a leader. And I believe that that is why people make choices like that, because they don't want to not be considered worthy.
Missing weddings, missing funerals, missing life. This is what happens when an MLM becomes somebody's identity. People start sacrificing everything to prove that they deserve success, and the group praises it, even when it harms you. This is, when we talk about MLMs and we talk about duplication, this is the one thing that duplicates in multi-level marketing. Praising the behavior that they want other people to do. You'll see them speak on, training Zooms, like my last live stream, the Isogenics. Was it Isogenics? No, excuse me. It was It Works, where they were talking about showing up even when life got hard. They want people to make those sacrifices because it shows that they can control even more. It's okay, I got away with this. What can we get away with next?
Of how we left the high control group that we were part of for 9 years. There was a couple that got sponsored on our team, and me and my husband were their mentors. They got sent a YouTube video by a family member or a friend or something that basically was saying how they just got started in a cult. They were freaking out. So they reached out to me and my husband and said, we're freaking out. We just watched this YouTube video. We think that we just joined a cult. Like, can we have a meeting with you? The meeting was for us to explain to them how this was not a cult. In preparation for this meeting, me and my husband are watching this YouTube video because we need to have every single point the YouTube video is making. We need to counteract it and basically say, like, yeah, but this is why this isn't true. After we watched the YouTube video, I looked at my husband and I was like, we need to cancel that meeting. Like, I can't meet with that couple to defend what we do because a lot of what that video said is true. And we had seen negative stuff for 9 years about what we were doing. We just were so brainwashed that it just kind of like rolled right off our back. Like, it did not affect us at all. We were just like, yeah, people think we're in a cult, like whatever. After that, I stopped going to meetings, listening to audios. I was like, I just need to like think on my own and like stop putting all this thought process in. I just need to like decompress from all that. For 2 months, my husband went to all the meetings and stuff, and we fought every single day because I was like unwiring my brain since I wasn't brainwashing myself intentionally every single day anymore. I started watching cult documentaries while he was at the meetings and stuff, and I would beg him to watch them. But when you're in that environment, you're taught that your growth in that business is directly correlated to how much you believe. So you don't allow yourself to watch negative stuff because it's going to hurt your belief in what you're doing. Those 2 months, my mentor ladies did not reach out one time to see what was going on or anything, and that is really what woke my husband up. He was like, it's kind of weird that they haven't even reached out to you. So because of that, he was open to finally watch something with me. We watched a few of them, and after that, we were like, we're done. We had a meeting with our mentors. We told them, hey, we're quitting because we think that this is a cult. And they were basically like, we totally understand where you're coming from. If we were in your shoes, you'd probably make the same decision because finances are tough and this is hard on your marriage. And we're like, no, it's not because of marriage or finance issues. Like, it's because we think it's a cult. They basically just twisted the whole story around. You could blame it on finances and marriage issues so that they had something to blame it on that wasn't like, oh, Keelan and Stephanie, you just think this is a cult now, because that would have everybody inside wondering like, oh, they think we were like leaders in this environment. So if they told everybody that we thought it was a cult, it got people to think like, oh, are we in a cult? So they had to blame it on something. And that really made me mad. So that's why I started posting to speak out on social media about it.
Oh, God, 100%. I really love that she touched on this point, because one thing MLM leaders will do, based on my own experience as well, when they have somebody that was considered a leader in their circle leave and start speaking out, is they are going to do anything and everything they can to control the narrative. Her mentors reframing them leaving Amway and LTD as financial or marriage issues is so predictable. They can't admit she left because she saw the truth. Oh, no, 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 because any sort of pushback, questioning, or even truth is seen as negative when you're in a multi-level marketing company. And if people started to catch wind of this leader who more than likely was influential within that LTD circle, that would make everybody else start to question it. So that is why you will see MLM leaders that are still in the company when a leader leaves try to control the narrative, because they are attempting to protect the group. They are attempting to protect their paycheck. They are attempting to prevent a mass exodus that eventually probably will happen, because the truth is always out there and you can find tons of information. If you are somebody that is watching, and maybe you're watching because you're in Amway and you're just kind of quietly watching, that's cool. Maybe you're in another MLM. Maybe you've been here on my channel since 2021 when I started speaking out against multi-level marketings based on my own experience. If you are looking for information on your company, type in anti-MLM and the name of your company into YouTube and just watch some videos. Just quietly watch. You don't have to tell your upline. You don't have to tell anybody. Just quietly watch the videos and try to do it without automatically saying, oh, this is negative. See if any of it's true. See if any of it resonates. See if you're like, that does happen. Because for me, when I was in multi-level marketing and I came across anti-MLM content, I was angry, number one, but I was like, wait, but that does happen. And not only did that happen to me, that happened in multiple companies that I was a part of. So try to remove that filter that is brainwashed into you when you are a part of multi-level marketing, especially if you're in upper leadership, and just watch it, because anything that is worth anything can stand up to any kind of scrutiny, right? Just try that out, see if that works. But yeah, this was her upline, her mentors, if you will, just trying to protect their check. It's totally predictable, in my opinion, every single time.
To be my sister's bridesmaid at her wedding. And that was just one of the stupid decisions that I made when I was in Amway for 9 years. I lived with my best friend. We rented a house together. And just out of the blue, I was like, I'm moving back in with my parents. And I just left her. From the time I told her to the time I moved out was like 2 weeks. I didn't care how she was going to pay rent. And for 9 years, I have no idea what she did. When me and my husband quit this cult-like organization, I reached out to her and to my sister and had to apologize. I was like, I am such a bad person. I'm so sorry. I said no to the bridesmaid thing because what if there was a conference that I had to go to? I might not even go to the wedding, so I can't commit to anything. I moved back in with my parents so I can take the money that I was using to pay rent with my roommate so I can use it to buy products in that business. I fell asleep driving and veered off into oncoming traffic because I was sleepy from driving all night to a conference. We would drive, it was insane. We had meetings that started at midnight every single week. Looking back, I think that was a tactic used to brainwash people, like the less sleep that they have, the more susceptible they are.
Oh my God. Yes. Yes, yes, yes. Controlling your sleep, controlling your thoughts, controlling your information, your food intake, all of that are tactics to control your behavior. 100%. God, I'm glad she's okay veering off because she's so tired from driving overnight to get to an event. And also 5 events a year. Whoa.
Every time of how culty me and my husband's dating and marriage experience was. We met in a multi-level marketing company. I was already in. I recruited him in. I met him on LinkedIn, and then we met up for coffee. He went through our interview process and joined our little cult. About a month in, I caught feelings, and he did too. But in that environment, it was kind of like prohibited to date anybody just randomly. So I guess our mentors kind of noticed like we were being friendly with each other. So they pulled him aside and told him like, hey, this is not an environment where you can just come date whoever you want. You actually need to prove yourself and build this business. Go 625 before you even think about dating anybody. And if you haven't been in before, what that means is basically just recruit 25 people in. So I had no idea about this conversation, and we were going into a conference that weekend, and I was like, I need to see if this guy likes me or not. Like, we need to get the show on the road, you know what I mean? So I made it my mission for that conference weekend to flirt with him as much as I possibly could so I can figure out like, okay, do we like each other, you know? I tell you, this guy ignored me the entire weekend. I would go sit next to him. He would casually move away. At the end of the weekend, I was like, this guy don't like me. So I was like, okay, whatever. He doesn't like me. Like, we had good conversations before. So I was like, this is so weird. Like, what happened? So I texted him one night and just invited him to go to the park to walk my dogs with me. And he said yes. And ever since then, we like would text and talk on the phone sometimes. I ended up telling my mentors like, hey, I like Keelan. And they were like, pause all conversation. Do not talk to each other. We're going to let our mentors know and see what to do. Our mentors set up a meeting to come into town and talk to us. They live in Houston. We live in Dallas. The meeting was on Saturday. This was like a Tuesday. They said, until this meeting, do not talk to each other. I broke the rules. I called him that night. I was like, I told our mentors how I feel about you. He was like, well, how do you feel about me? So anyways, we told each other we liked each other. It was really cute in like elementary school. But we were like, okay, we can't talk to each other. I'll see you on Saturday. Show up for the meeting on Saturday. I look at him. He looks at me. We say hi. It's like super awkward. We sit down and the first question our mentor's mentor asks us, which we were like, oh my God, this is like the guy, you know? He goes, on a scale from 1 to 10, how serious are you about getting married? I'm sorry. I just told this, like, we just found out we liked each other earlier this week. Like, excuse me? Married? I was 22. So they make Keelan answer. He says 9. Then the guy looks at me and then he was like, I'm not going to make you answer. It's like, okay, good. So weird. So then they told us that we could take the next month to basically figure out everything we needed to know about each other, and basically figure out, do I want to marry this person or not? He said, tell each other the good, bad, and ugly, like everything, lay it all on the table so that you can be like yes or no. And then they told us nobody was allowed to find out about us because if things didn't work out, then it wouldn't be weird for either of us to still come around the environment. So he didn't want anyone to quit just because like, oh, things didn't work out and now I feel awkward. Everybody knows about it. Like, he didn't want that. And there was rules like don't hang out at each other's houses, go to public places, talk on the phone, no kissing. And so we did. That was in October. We got engaged on Thanksgiving in November and we were married in February.
Wow. Approval to date? Rules about how you interact and communicate with that person, fast-tracked marriage timelines. This is so weird to be under this umbrella of a business. This is social control. If they can manage your relationships, they can manage your loyalty, which is 100% what she was touching on there when she was like, you know, hey, they just didn't want things to be awkward if it didn't work out. They didn't want people to quit. That is always going to be the bottom line with these MLM uplines. It's very, very convenient to use this kind of control when it comes to the downlines. This is so gross.
About the free labor that goes on in Amway. In this culture, the leaders are like worshipped. So people would volunteer to like go mow their mentor's yard. It was like a badge of honor. The mindset is like, they've given so much to me. Like, how can I repay them? Like, can I watch your kids for a weekend for free? If somebody's moving, everyone's expected to like help. Can you pick me up from the airport? Can you drop me off at the airport? Can you give me a ride here? During conferences, the leaders are hosted by whoever they choose. If you are chosen to host, it is like a big deal. We spent so much money when we got asked to host because we had to rent a car. We go talk to that person's team and like find out all their likes, what's their favorite candy, what's their favorite snack, put together gift baskets, get their hotel room, make it look nice, like decorate it saying like, you're amazing, have like all their favorite snacks like all over the hotel room. And then the host's job is to make sure that that leader has a good conference experience. You're in charge of getting their coffee in the morning. You sit like next to them or like constantly have to keep an eye on them during the conference just to make sure like, do they need anything? You walk next to them as their bodyguard because there will be people coming up to them since they're leaders. They're kind of like famous in this environment. And you are in charge of kind of reading the room and assessing whether or not you need to turn people away, like, hey, just let them go to their hotel room, they're tired.
Whoa, a bodyguard? That is so twisted. And can we also talk about the fact that whoever is hosting that upline and them having to buy their favorite snacks and decorate the room and all of that stuff? So the downline is having to pay for all of this stuff when typically the downline is the one losing the money and the upline is the one that is making all the money. But they have to pay for all of that stuff. So they're basically unpaid personal assistants and bodyguards and whatever else, so that they can make sure that that upline has a great experience at conference. That is so wild. Have y'all ever heard of anything like this? Because I have not to this extent. This is wow.
Obviously, if I'm deciding to post online, I'm going to get negative comments. I'm aware. But do you know how many people have messaged me asking for help getting out? Like, how did you muster up the courage? How did you tell your mentors? And how many people are actually in that? You know, the only reason I was like, oh, this is like legit was because there was people that had like doctors and lawyers that were doing this. I used to work at a dental office. It was general dentistry, so we referred out to specialists for certain things like root canals. We would send people to an endodontist. The endodontist that we would refer out to. One day I put two and two together and I was like, oh my gosh, this endodontist we refer out to, he's in Amway. He's a very successful endodontist in our area, and he was very successful in Amway too. And since then, he has actually quit his endodontist job and just does Amway full time. So y'all just need to be nice, because I'm coming out here being vulnerable, sharing my story so I can actually help other people. And honestly, I'm like, I've already embarrassed myself enough by messaging every single person I've ever met asking if they want to be in this MLM with me. So like, it can't get much worse than that. But like, please be nice, or just don't say anything.
Does this sound like Scientology to you guys? Because that's what it sounds like to me. Because I guarantee you she is a suppressed person, according to Amway. You can also hear how nervous she is about backlash and comments. And honestly, I get it. I've been there. I've reacted to a lot of that happened when I left in 2021. When someone leaves a group like Amway or LTD, the flying monkeys almost always show up. And if you're unfamiliar with flying monkeys, those are the people that come after you on behalf of the group in order to protect the group, in order to make it seem like your experience was an isolated thing because you didn't follow the systems, you didn't do what you were supposed to do. Sometimes they come across extremely aggressive. Sometimes they act wounded and their feelings are hurt. Sometimes they pretend to be concerned about the person. Oh, this is just so out of character. I'm worried about you. But the goal is always the same: to silence you, to shame you, or to pull you back in. They do not want people. When I say they, I mean high control groups, whether we're talking about commercial cults, religious cults, cults in general. They do not want people speaking out and pulling the curtain back for people to see what really goes on behind closed doors. And that's what Stephanie is doing here. They just try to silence you. So I hope Stephanie continues to speak out. I think it's extremely important. And if you were a part of Amway, I would love to hear your story in the comments below as well, if you feel comfortable. Here's what usually happens when it comes to the flying monkeys thing. They flood your comments with defensiveness. They twist your words. They call you negative. They call you bitter. They call you a hater. They try to make you feel guilty for speaking up. Sometimes they'll even mass report content, for harassment or bullying or something like that. I think that it's important for you guys to know that if you ever leave a high control group, here is a couple tips maybe on how you can protect yourself. Block immediately. If they're commenting something like that, just block them. Don't feel guilty about it. Don't argue. You're never going to win with somebody who is still indoctrinated deep into their cult culture, if you will. Keep screenshots in case things escalate. That's extremely important. And surround yourself with people who are outside of that MLM bubble. This is not your fault. Their reaction is a trained response. You don't deserve it, but it is trained. It is predictable. We know that they're going to react this way. I see it all the time, almost on every video that I put out talking about a multi-level marketing company. But have you tried the product? I don't need to try the product. There's no scientific evidence that shows that this product does what you claim it does. Oh, but you haven't tried. It's wild. So please know that these are trained responses from people that are indoctrinated into a cult.
I spent over $30,000 every single year for 9 years while we were in an MLM, Amway, that ended up being a cult. The cult part is LTD.
You tell me, okay, we know how much you spent, but how much did you actually make? My husband dug up actual numbers from our taxes.
Before she gets into this, all of this has been really, really important. There is a reason I started my video the way that I did in my intro, because this is the most important part of this video. A lot of times we'll see on social media, oh, I made 6 figures and 7 figures. Sometimes we see 8 figures, and they never really elaborate. They never get really specific. We don't know if that's gross or if that's net. We never really know the truth. And what Stephanie is about to show you guys is the truth based on their taxes. And I think that that is extremely important. So let's hear what she has to say.
So let's go through them. In 2016, I made $2,035.67, and that was my first year. In 2017, I made $7,255. In 2018, this is the year we got married, we made $11,172. 2019, $16,470. 2020, we made $32,355. In 2021, we made $60,465. 2022, we made $16,473. In 2023, we made $24,881. And in 2024, we made $22,016.
Now, all of this might sound good if we remember that she said that both her and her husband had a full-time job. So this looks like extra income. One of those months, one of those years, they made 60K. That's incredible. But here's where the other foot drops. Because when you're in a multi-level marketing company, they don't typically talk about net income. They don't typically talk about what they spent versus what they brought in, what they made. They don't talk about that stuff. And I think it's for a reason. So this is where the other foot drops. I mean, on paper, just like I said in my intro, $93,122 might sound good when it's presented as extra income, but let's see what they actually spent and where they end up over these 9 years.
He found all these numbers. He also found the exact amount that we spent, shall we? 2016, I spent $21,433. 2017, $35,530. 2018, $39,433. 2019, $55,530. 2020, $40,263. 21, $58,092. 2022, $43,790. 2023, $49,893. And 2024, $37,000.
Are you seeing how this is adding up? Or I should say subtracting out, maybe is the best way to say that. You can already kind of do the math and see how much in the red they are. But let's see where she says, I just wanted to pause that maybe for dramatic effect a little bit, but also because I know some of you are going through this and you're like, wait, they're in the whole 19K. They're in the whole 23K or 24K. No, my math is off. But you know what I'm saying? I know some of you are doing some mental math really quickly. Let's see where they end up as net, if you will. I guess that's the best way I want to say that, over the 9 years that they've been a part of Amway.
$508.
Net loss, $188,000. And I believe that says 350 cents. I am so glad that she has put these numbers out. I am so glad that she is telling the whole truth, not just what you make, because we know that people in MLM like to hide behind, well, I made 6 figures. I made 7 figures. Oh, really? What did you net? Oh, we don't want to talk about that. What did you spend? What were your expenses? Oh, we don't want to talk about that. And when you see these numbers side by side, just like what Stephanie has shown us, everything becomes super clear. When you look at this and you look at MLM companies' income disclosure statements, it all makes sense. Let's not forget that she was a leader in Amway. She was part of the inner circle of her group. I know she worded that a little bit different, but she was somebody that on paper, when you see these numbers, was making money. But when you actually plug in all of the numbers, let alone the time, the energy that they spent, the gas money, all of that stuff adds up to MLM math. Just doesn't make any sense. This is not a business opportunity. It's a financial drain designed to benefit the people above you. That's who profits off of all of this spending? Because it's definitely not Stephanie and her husband, right? We see those numbers. Stephanie, I want to thank you so much for sharing your story. I think it is so important that this is told in a public platform. I feel like your honesty is definitely going to help a lot of people who are sitting in silence, suffering in silence, and wondering if they're the only ones feeling like something is off. Like, this doesn't make sense, but I can't put my finger on it. And for anybody watching, you deserve a life where your money, your time, and your thoughts belong to you. You deserve community that does not require financial sacrifice. You deserve real relationships that are not transactional, and you deserve to question things without fear. This is a place of healing. It's always going to be a place of honesty and no shame. If you're in an MLM or you're thinking about leaving one, just know that you are welcome here. Thank you guys for watching. Stephanie, thank you for sharing your story. And if you would like and subscribe to the channel, it helps get the word out. I'm so happy to have covered Amway, and I am so happy that Stephanie has told her story. Thank you guys for watching. Take care of yourselves, and I'll see you on the next video. Bye, everybody.